LA Law came about because Grant Tinker called me when we were still doing Hill Street. And in fact, I was still at MTM. And he said, "You're going to read in the paper that I said, I mean Grant said, that you're developing a law show for us." I said, "Well, that's news to me." He said, "I know, it just sort of came out wrong, but," he said, "why don't you think about that?" I said, "Okay, you know." So I did, actually. I thought about a law show. And when I was fired from MTM and I had a series commitment from NBC, I came over here to 20th Century Fox, and I had several things I wanted to do. Amongst them, a law show, which I hadn't thought through too specifically, but as a category, I thought, I'd never done one before, and that would be interesting. Because parenthetically, I've always thought that a law show is a cop show, and a cop show is a law show. You're just looking at it through the other end of the telescope, So having done Hill Street Blues, I thought it might be interesting to do a show about the other end of the process, the other side of the process. So I had lunch with Brandon Tartikoff, who was then the head of programming at NBC. And I said, I'm going to be doing a show for you. And I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking maybe something like this. What's your interest? What are your needs? And Brandon, who was wonderful, said, that ain't what I do. You're the drama guy. Whatever you want to do is what I want to do. So I said, okay. So after giving it a lot of thought, I decided that the law show probably was the smartest one to do of the various things that I had in mind. And so I really started to think about that and came up with the concept of LA Law as a full service law firm. And basically what I did is I ripped off Hill Street. I ripped it off structurally, because I wanted to have an ensemble. I wanted to have multiple storylines, and I wanted to have multiple storylines that arced over more than one episode. And I wanted to have characters who were, at various times serious and committed, but also funny and venal, the way a lot of, certainly the perception of lawyers being what it was and remains. I wanted to run the gamut of those personality types. And so I thought, well, if I have a divorce attorney, that's just open season on fun. And an officious office manager, a managing partner kind of guy, and anyway, I basically came up with that whole thing. And when I was ready to pitch it, I went over to NBC, and I sat in Brandon's office, and he had, a bunch of executives in there. And I laid out this concept as I saw it, and they just started hammering me. Well, no one's made a law show work, and God knows, since Perry Mason, and Perry Mason really wasn't a law show, it was a mystery show, blah, blah, blah. So for like 30 minutes here, I'm fighting for my life in the room, defending this concept. And Brandon just sat there like a stone behind his desk. I think he was actually enjoying it, just sort of watching the back and forth. And finally, after like 20, 30 minutes, however long it was, he said, "Well, let's just do it." And that was the end of it. The meeting was over. So I think he was just playing with me. But actually it was good, because it gave me an opportunity to sort of put this thing up on its feet and defend it against some vigorous questioning. And that's essentially how it came to be. And then I felt very strongly that I couldn't write a show like that by myself. I didn't have a law background. And I wanted very much to write it with an attorney, someone with a law background. I also felt strongly that it was the kind of show, unlike Hill Street Blues, which was a very macho environment, that this was a show that would feature women differently. And so I thought if I could get a writing partner with a law background who was a female, now I got a game. And Dana Callens, who became the president of my company a couple of years later, but at that time was working for 20th Century Fox, really went on a search for me and flushed out Terry Louise Fisher, and the rest, as they say, is history.